All right. Hopefully I got the audio this time, got everything set up. I see some familiar faces in the chat room, or familiar handles at least. So welcome to Till 5 headquarters. This is my dump of an office, which has lots of junk around. So if we get bored making the zombie game, we can grab some stuff off the shelf and take a look at some weird retro stuff. Johnny Speed asks about the office, how many pinball machines are in the break room? We don't keep them in the break room. We keep them right out front. So there's probably about 15 machines kind of out in the main, work area. People are pretty good at not playing them, early on in the day. But, when it gets towards the evening, you might hear it through the walls. I don't know how good the microphone's going to pick it up. Hey, Luke74. Cool to see you join us from Italy. That's awesome. Okay, let's get started. I was talking to one of my colleagues today, and I got a few tips. So we'll try not to make a mess out of everything that he told me to do. So on the project, I went ahead and cleaned a few things up ahead of time. So before, the first level was called example. So now it's called level 1. So this, we'll try to be a little cleaner. We also left off yesterday, we had some null values. So we're gonna have to chase those down and figure out what's going on. I have a suspicion what's happening because we made some edits to some lookat scripts, and there's a lookat problem here. And I was showing it off to one of the game off to one of the guys at work, and I noticed that the character's body was not rotating, only the gun. So the gun would kind of rotate and the body would stay put. So I suspect there must be on the player a couple lookat scripts that kind of move the character around. So we'll have to go interrogate that. But first, I'm in a new environment here. So we went through this yesterday where I set up my Till 5 glasses to be player 1 and 2. So we'll take a look at that. And this is kind of good for those of you that are not familiar with Tilt 5. I can show you how, for now, how you set up player 1 and player 2, or player 3, player 4, and so on in the Tilt 5 control panel. Right now it's alphabetical. So when I plug in glasses, I'm going to plug in, can you see? No, you can't see. So off to my right here, if I pull it over, I have a pair of glasses sitting on a microphone stand and a little 3D print that holds the glasses in place. So it's kind of at head height, so I can just put it in front of the game board. So no more fun stuff like yesterday where I was stacking multiple glasses onto my head. I can just set it up over here. But I think I want this to be player 2 that's on the stand. So I'm going to plug that in. And that's going to boot up. And for now, the way that we do glasses, this must have been the pair I had at home, or someone already labeled it glasses 1, but the glasses get arranged in the control panel where player 1 is alphabetically the first, player 2 is alphabetically second and third, and so on. So if we click on the glasses and then we go over to actions, I can set up friendly names. So I really want the one on the stand to be player 2. See the chat room's talking about Tilt 5 Arena, and we're going to take over the FTX Arena in a few years when we take off to the moon. So let's hope that happens. Would be really nice. But we don't want the same results as FTX. What a fiasco. I love watching all of these like crypto scam videos. It's kind of entertaining. So I just turned on this one. I got lucky out of the 2 wands I've got here. So it's blinking blue. That means it's connected to player 2. So I'll set that off to the side. And now I'm going to plug in player 1 and make sure that it's what I want to use is player one glasses, and we'll get that set up as player one and get its wand connected. All right, so this pair has never been on this computer before. So it just says glasses and this big long serial number here. So out of the box, when you get your Tilt 5 system, this is what it's gonna be like. So it's gonna be alphabetical by this long serial number. You're gonna want to set up a friendly name. So glasses 1, because I want that to be first player. And then click back over to glasses, then connect my wand. Johnny Speed said, I just saw the D&D movie, great FX, but my favorite moment was a cameo by some D&D alumni from the 80s. I don't know much about D&D. All my friends back in the 80s liked to have me hang out with them, but would never really help me get into the game too much. They'd help me build a character sheet and then just let me die immediately, which was a bummer. Okay, we're good to go on the control panel. We'll get that out of the way. All right, let's, why don't we chase down these null values first and try to get everything kind of working before we dive into new stuff. Johnny Speed, any chance of a zombie-related cameo in your demo game? I don't know, cameo from who? I ran into Lloyd Kaufman from Troma Films recently. Maybe we could digitize him and make a voxel Lloyd Kaufman. He's quite a character. All right, I'm going to go to level 1. Okay. And I changed the resolution of the screens here a little bit too to maybe make it easier for you all to read and make it easier for my old eyes to read too. So let's just make sure, and since I cleaned a few things up, let's make sure it still plays kind of in general. Oh, I don't know if you can see if I get in close. Yeah, the player isn't rotating around. It's just his guns rotating around his body. The audio is going off somewhere else. Let me check the audio so I can hear it. It's probably defaulted to one of the glasses. Or the Dell monitor. That's where it went. I plugged in a new monitor and there's no speakers hooked up to it. Let's restart. So I'm not sure if you guys can see that very well, but it's kind of funny. The gun just rotates around the body. Hey, not another dev. Good to see you. All right. So it looks like it is in here somewhere. So the chest. Okay, that's weird. Oh no, that's right. So chest. Because yesterday this was just looking for a name, so it was finding game object by name, and that's not very compatible for going multiplayer because you have the same name replicated when you bring in these prefabs. So I made it a public variable that we can set. So there's somewhere, I think we're going to have to hunt down all the look at scripts. Head parent. Oh, here's one. So on player one, head parent has nothing, so null. Good thing, good thing I didn't put a null check in there, so I got an error, right? Isn't that an upside? Good to see me coding again. I've never been a coder, not another dev. I've been terrible at coding my entire life. I got started coding in BASIC as a kid in the 80s. I made a BBS, was probably the most advanced thing that I made. Did a lot of assembly code because that just kind of clicked with me. So I think I was just hardwired to go towards hardware design. Hi, Christian. Good to see you. So yeah, this seems suspicious that the head is not rotating towards the target. So that was under spine, chest, neck, head. So let's go fix that in player 2. So I'm going to put player 2's target in. Prototyped asked, where's the fat man? So for those of you that don't know, way back probably 15 years ago, when live streaming wasn't really much of a thing, a friend of mine, George Sanger, the Fat Man, he's a famous video game musician, he's like, hey, let's do some streaming, and you and your crazy friends that make wacky inventions can like build things, and then I'll help co-host a show. And that's what we did. It was called Ustream back then. And at the time, I was working at New Tech, which was making a box called the TriCaster to make it easy to stream onto the internet. Back before you could just do it on, any old PC or even your phone. And so that's what we did. We would get together, a bunch of us in Portland, where I was living. We would kind of make crazy inventions, and then we'd stream it Sunday at like 5 o'clock, and the Fat Man would join in through Skype or whatever we had back in those days, and he would co-host, and we'd look at the inventions. It was pretty fun. People thought that I was pretty weird for doing that back then. Now it's like, if you're not. Oh, so sorry, everyone. I'm so bad at this. I forgot to switch back to programming view. But yeah, anyway, everyone thought I was weird back then. Now everyone streams, like your grandma streams. So sorry, I was talking into the void there and wasn't showing you what was going on. I should have the chat room be able to control control OBS. That's actually what we set up back in the day when we were doing the Fat Man and Circuit Girl show, is what we called it. The chat room could change cameras and do pan, tilt, zoom, and control all the inputs to the TriCaster. Anyway, so yesterday we modified this script so that it wasn't looking for game objects of a name. We made it so that there was a public variable, which means that you actually had to drag the actual game object you want to follow, which the target is the reticle that's drawn from the wand that collides with the ground. And that was null, and so that was kicking out all of these error messages. So I found that the head the head look at function was disconnected and had a null on both player 1 and player 2. So I dragged the target down in there. Someone's talking about feed the fish. Yeah, on the Fat Man and Circuit Girl live stream, we had a betta fish that the chat room called Master Betta. I know. And I built a little automatic feeder so that the chat room twice a day could push a pellet in through this mechanism, and there'd be a blinky light, and it was kind of funny. People would try to time it, and we'd get these big spikes in viewership when it was time to feed the fish. It was kind of fun. We actually went through a couple master bettas, and then we had one called Gimpy too at one point, because I went to get a replacement master betta, and then I saw this other betta fish that had like some kind of bladder gill infection or something. It was kind of laying flat on the bottom of its tank, so I took it home and we had two. It recovered. I guess it was some kind of infection. All right, enough about fish. Let's take a look at this and see if I got it fixed. All right, hopefully that was clear what I did. Hopefully we got rid of some of these null exceptions. Oh, so good, so good. So far, so good. Ah, that's better. I don't know. You know, the torso, the torso stays put when I move around, but it feels a lot better having the head turn. I guess we're just going to assume that this is some kind of robotic police officer where its head can pivot 360 degrees. Could you all see that okay? I'm going to switch back to the big mix cast and play again. Okay. Oh, 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 this is wrong. Both players' heads are pivoting towards. So I dragged the wrong thing into the into one of these. Oops, I should have figured out which one was player one and player two. So both their heads swivel to the reacting to. Player two is wrong. Okay. I will remember to put it back to programming view for you all. All right, so player two neck or head, what was it, head? That is the wrong target. It should be this one. Not Another Dev says, dumb question, what is the max height of an object with tilt 5? It depends on what your configuration is with the game board. You know, if you say had the game board on the floor and you're looking straight down, it's just between your nose and the game board, kind of sitting how I am now. Over the weekend, I was at my dining room table, which had pretty low chairs, and I got about, you know, that much height. This one here, I'm getting like this much height, especially up front, and then it's kind of like a horizon line down. Johnny Speed asks, are some of the cars like audio landmines where if you bump them, the alarm goes off and draws zombies or makes them run towards it? I don't think so. I think this scene is pretty dumb right now, but maybe that's something we can consider adding to it. I always liked Left 4 Dead when I worked at Valve Software. I didn't like the kind of linear gameplay part of it. I liked the survival levels where you would get, you know, into a match with, I think it was 4 or 5 players, and you could move around all of your, you know, propane tanks, and you could kind of choose your, you know, how you set everything up ahead of time, and then one of you would have to run down to like hit a car or something, I forget all the things you did, or turn on a radio which would make noise, and then the zombies would come swarming in, and it was just a matter of like how many like waves of zombies you could survive. You weren't making it out alive, but you would just sit there and try to survive as long as possible. It was super fun. But yeah, there was definitely an element there where you made noise which triggered the zombies coming in. Maybe we could do the same thing, like if you accidentally shoot a car and the car alarm goes off, it like doubles the speed of the spawning of the zombies or something. It might be hard, you know, somehow we'd have to relay that change of game state to the player so they understand that, you know, don't, you know, try to avoid the car alarms and the other things that cause the waves to come faster. Not Another Dev asks, do we ever plan on doing standalone without a PC? So a good way to do kind of standalone without PC is use Android right now. There's a lot of Android options like that. And so sometime in the future, if we ever go standalone, it's going to probably be based off of Android. But today you can just grab any, you know, decent fairly modern cell phone and just be completely mobile. I don't have my phone on me today, but it's pretty slick. You just plug it in, launch your game, and then you can run around. You know, the first time we got Android working, everyone in the office was just had their Android phones plugged in. We were just running from game board to game board. Ha ha! I'm running in a circle around a game board. Now I'm going to another game board, and I mean, there's trade-offs if you use, Android. It's, it's not as easy to do multiplayer as with a PC. All right, let's check and make sure. Oh, I just realized I didn't show you the programming view. But anyway, I fixed it. I dragged the right game object into. We're going to have to do something about the audio. We got a lot of complaints yesterday from people that the shooting sound wasn't delightful enough. That one's for Jamie, my co-founder, who hates when I say delightful. All right, let's go back to programming view. Oh, I'm in programming view. Yeah, you can use it on the wall as a monitor. There's a kind of hidden menu in the 1.4 drivers that let you set the game board angle. It's always been hidden. It's only slightly hidden this time around when we release 1.4. Any day now, 1.4 drivers will go out. I'm excited for those because it's a ton of improvements, in particular around the wand. We've had a bunch of bugs around the wand, and you get haptics for the wand now, which is cool. All right, let me save that before I forget. So I think now let's go back to this kind of lobby level. Christian says, they've certainly become powerful these days. Even budget phones can do fairly good 3D. Yeah, it's true. It's back in the days before Tilt 5 was Tilt 5, my first go at this was at Cast AR. And we actually built a standalone, we called it the Content Hub, Chub for short, which was always made us giggle. But it was full of, lithium batteries, and it was like the biggest, baddest Qualcomm processor at the time, 820, I think is what it was. And it was pretty tough to get performance out of that. Now your like freebie phone you get from your cell plan is plenty powerful. Okay, so yesterday we got ChatGPT to build this, and it did it first try. Scene switcher script. And so the idea of the scene switcher script is we're going to build this out a little bit in the lobby. We're going to have some UI, maybe some graphics at some point so that it looks kind of cool, but some UI and a chance for each player that has a headset plugged in to opt into the game. And they'll have to pull their trigger, and it'll start a countdown timer, and everyone's going to pull their trigger in time. And then it's going to switch scene to level 1. And then it's going to drag across data from scene to scene that's important. So the first thing that we really need to get set up is, is player 1 or player 2 active or both active? I'm going to do it 2-player at a time, then we'll expand it out to 4-player, but it's going to pass that. And the way that our buddy ChatGPT decided to do that was kind of cool. A little bit different than something I did before, is makes this game object do not destroy. So whatever variable, like, it gave this is initialized variable, we can give it a state, and then it remains the state remains the same in the next scene instead of getting reset. So I think we'll also expand this out so that from level to level, we'll take the player's score hit points and transfer them forward into the next scene. But as I was talking to one of the crew today, and they said, oh, you're using a string for scene name, which is fine, but it can be a little bit annoying. And what they recommended is inside of Unity, I didn't realize you could do this. I've done scene changes before, but it was always by a string name of it, and it is kind of a pain in the butt. But under build settings, let me drag this up so we can look at it. So under build settings, there's a integer slot for each of these. So the intro scene is at 0, 1, and then as we add more scenes, it'll be 2, 3, 4, 5. And what you can do to simplify your life, there's probably some pros and cons to this, but you can make this an integer instead and call it something like scene index, and then you can change it from string to integer here, and it'll just index through the scene. So we'll give that a try and see if it works. I don't know if there's anything special we've got to do to use integers instead, but and then we'll start to flesh this out with a timer and look for people to acknowledge pulling their trigger. Let's see what chat has to say. I see stuff here. Oh, someone was suggesting till 5 could be interesting for incident places like servers and DevOps. Could be handy for status displays around the room in a data center. Yeah, there's some big companies that have been buying our system to do some, non-gaming stuff. A lot of command and control, super popular. Just probably hundreds and hundreds of systems have gone out to companies that are doing data visualization and command and control type things. You could imagine if you have some topology like a factory, you may want to actually be able to visualize where things are on, whatever the flow is as you're manufacturing things. All right, let's not kill everything yet. Let's make a private, my integer scene index. Okay. And I put it after do not destroy. I don't know if that has any properties. Probably not, but let's initialize it to 0, which is our current scene when we looked at the build manager. This is something that took me a while to figure out in Unity, and if you haven't run into this yet, it can be kind of frustrating. Like when you're trying to change scenes and it's not in the build menu, in one of those slots, you can't change to it. So, you can load that scene up and run it in the editor, but then when you try to move to it, it just kind of dies on you. Christian says, ooh, Command and Conquer or StarCraft. I agree. Command and Conquer was one of my favorite games. So back in the 90s, I had a chain of computer stores, and we would hook up over a knoll, or not a knoll, what did they call it? Serial cable, crossover serial cable. We got a really long one, and we had like this doorway between like the front area and the repair area, and we'd kind of run this through the door and we'd play against each other. It was super fun. So the way this works right now, just for testing, if the user presses the space bar, it takes you to the next scene, and I just indexed the scene before we load the next scene. So at this point, when we hit space, it should be scene 1, which is our first level. Null modem. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Man, it's been a long time. And it wasn't easy back in those days getting all of your jumpers right on your ISA serial port and then getting the games pointed to the right port. We've kind of spoiled today. I think that's the cool thing about Tilt 5 too, is like it's still hard to do networking on Unity and Unreal. You know, it's a little bit better in Unreal apparently. I haven't actually tried it, but it's kind of a pain in the butt to do networking. But with local multiplayer, we just made it so you don't have to deal with any netcode or any of those really difficult things. You know, you can just add a couple game boards to your scene and now it's multiplayer. Okay, let's see if this works. Okay, so now we're in our intro scene, which is going to be really amazing to look at. What's it? What happened to my... What happened here on my OBS? One moment. For some reason, Mixcast got really big. I must have hit some shortcut. That's funny. All right. Okay, now we're inside of the intro scene. The glasses are actually running, but there's nothing to see here right now. If I hit space, let's see if it works. Ah, great. So now we're in the game. Now I can go all crazy. Control Z. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's cool. That's cool. All right. We're not messing it up too much. Should we take a retro computer break and look at some of the weird stuff I have in the office here? As I think about what I want to do next. Let me grab something. So this weekend I was talking about trying to get a model a Toshiba T1000 working, and how I went through multiple T1000s trying to get one that works, that where the capacitors hadn't eaten through all of the traces. And so I had a couple cases laying around, and what do you do with an empty case? You turn it into a touchscreen modern PC. So in the back here is a Nook computer where I bandsawed the top off of it, and then I made a panel across the back. There's a USB hub in here to connect to a bunch of things, your power connections here, and it's full of lithium batteries. I have a switch for master power shut off, and then a button to start it. And then on this side, I found a slim floppy drive, a USB floppy drive, made a metal bracket, made a bracket to hold the front panel on here. Then I glued the original button in place, and the eject button is actually a really slim little button up here. And so I carefully carved through the plastic so the new eject button's here. There it is. Very difficult to do in front of the, I can open the trash can maybe here. You can hear the floppy going. Yeah. Actually, I like this a lot. When I first built this, I was sitting on my couch watching movies on the big television screen, and this aspect ratio is kind of perfect. I could see, I know I'm a lazy slug, but you can see over the top of it and actually see the television, and then this aspect ratio is pretty nice um, for uh, for working even. And so the keyboard, I used a Raspberry Pi Nano or Pico, the really small microcontroller based one, and I used CircuitPython to do a row column decode and then hook it up over USB. So let's shut down here. Power. Shut down. Now we gotta wait for it to shut down. Well, this particular, someone's saying it's truly portable now, but this one had a battery in it, so I don't know how long the battery lasted on it. It wasn't very big. I mean, it was about 4 C-cell size NiCads. Christian's asking what the resolution is. Yeah, it's about 1280 across. I forget what it was tall. 540 sounds about right. You can find these eBay and Amazon and stuff. You can see there's a little bit of discoloration here. It was a tight fit in here, so it's actually pushing on the liquid crystal a little bit and kind of, you know, making a little light leakage. Yeah, it was a fun little project. Didn't take too long. The bezel is a little bit, it's a little too narrow for the opening here, so I had to cut some plastic and mount it inside to kind of like blend it in. So it looks pretty good. Come on, Windows, shut down. I want to get back to programming. I think I have an idea what I want to do first. Neil's saying, for what would you use this thing? It's a full PC. It's a pretty decent PC too. All right, we'll let this kind of cook back here until Windows decides that it's gonna actually shut down. The only downside to it is since it's not a laptop, it doesn't have all the power management of a laptop. If you don't disconnect the lithium batteries, it'll just drain them to the point where you can't get the thing to recharge again. Okay, so I think what I want to do now is I'm going to make 3 public bools that we can set depending on which player is joined, so that we can pass those from the intro scene, the lobby scene, to subsequent scenes. Player 1 joined. As I was thinking about this earlier, there's a really quirky thing in Unity, and I don't know how to get around it gracefully. If a game object is disabled, so I think the way I want to do this is I want to have all 4 player prefabs all hooked up, sitting in the scene, and it would be nice if I could just have them off and then just re-enable them. Actually, me think. Maybe there is a way. Maybe if I have anyway, here, let me describe the problem that's the challenge is if a game object is disabled, you can't search it by name. And I believe that's the case. And I kind of want these things disabled, but maybe if the parent is enabled, I can enable the child below it. Hey Sherlock Ohms, from saying hi from the far north. Neil asks, does any of your stuff go to market? I see companies with 3D stuff and makes me wonder if they stole it from you. I don't think there's anyone stealing stuff from us. Our product's, for sale and available right now. So, chance for me to shamelessly plug that it's, on sale for the next week or so on our website, tilt5.com. So, 2-player and 3-player systems are big discount for the time being. So, get your system. Buy now, don't wait. All right. Anyway, let's just see if I can get these bools present in the other scene. So let's do it this way. Yeah, I don't want to do anything in awake. I was debating if I wanted to initialize these in awake, but I don't know what the behavior is on a don't destroy between scenes. I don't know if we may have to do a little test. It'd be kind of nice if I could do stuff in awake based on what scene index we're in, but I don't know if awake is run again when you go to a new scene. So awake happens the first time the script it wakes. So you can do a bunch of stuff in there like initializing variables or going out into the scene and finding things. So we'll just have to do some testing and see what happens. But first I'm going to try to set these bools. So not another dev says you can do either. Explain more while I type some tilt5 input stuff. So what I'm going to do is start, I'm going to do tilt5.input try get trigger. I'm not going to put any of the timer stuff in yet. I just want to make sure that I can set these bools and then get them over to the new scene. So awake won't happen if you don't destroy on load is set. Don't destroy on load. I don't understand that. Can you tell me more, not another dev? Okay. So this tilt5.input try get trigger, this is the trigger on the wand. And so it's out a float. It outputs a float between 0 and 1. Right? Outfloat. Trigger player 1. Now we're going to do tilt5 controller index, our right hand, and then we're going to do tilt5 player index 1. So this is going to be player 1's. So yeah, it's going to put the value of the trigger into this trigger, or the trigger pull is going to go in there. And now we can duplicate this 4 times. There's probably a more graceful way to do this, but I'm just going to unroll my code. As we're going to do player 2, player 3, player 4, and then we're going to update the floats. Actually, I could probably do it this way, be a little bit cleaner. So if this, if till 5, and what's it called? Trigger player 1 greater than equal to 0.5 f. All right, I'm going to take a second to see what not another dev is saying. It says, grabbing docs. If you put this don't destroy on load this game on object inside awake, the object won't get removed ever. Then you can set your initial state in awake and keep it forever. I think that's what I've got, right? So now the question, not another dev, what happens in start? Can I do something in start? So there's awake and start. Not another dev says another better way is to use a singleton, but that requires more effort and doesn't give you a benefit. I'm curious what we can do in start as this thing, does start get called each time a new scene is loaded? Because it might be nice in start, if scene index is 1 or greater, then I can have it go out, find all of the player characters and enable them and disable them depending on what these bools are set at. Otherwise, I could potentially, each one of the players could find this script and then interrogate its own player bool and disable itself. It seems a little awkward, but okay, so I did everything in an if. Let's get a little more real estate to work with. So I put everything inside of an if. I was going to have all these ifs away from the trigger value, but I think this works. So I can go player, set that true. So anyone that's on the home screen pulls a trigger, it'll set their bool true. Are we boring you all yet? And trigger player 2 greater than equal 0.5 float. So I'm giving a little bit of a dead zone in here. Okay, let's check in with not another dev. I double checked start and awake won't get called but I have a cunning idea. You can remove the do not destroy on load and make your variable static. Then when a new instance of it's made, it can in each load. Oh, that's sounding familiar. It seems like how I did it before in the past. So you're saying I could make scene index and all my bools static and then get rid of this? Moki Customs. I'm glad it's not boring. Johnny Speed's bored, though. Sorry, Johnny Speed. All right, we'll revisit that in a little bit, and maybe we can play around with doing static instead. Let me just try to get this first bit of logic going here, where we can get the triggers going, and get a timer in there, maybe get some UI. Trigger player 3 greater than equal to 0.5. I hope my team's not watching this because they're probably cringing at how bad I'm doing some of this stuff. And trigger player 4 greater than equal 0.5 float. Oh no. Squiggly brackets. Player 4 joined. Okay, why don't we go see if I can pull the trigger and get player 1 and 2 joined, visible in the editor. All right, there's our flags that we're going to use to turn on and off different players. Okay. Hey, player 1 joined. Player 2 joined. Man, it's almost like I know what I'm doing. Not. So, actually, let's do that again just to triple check. I was pretty sure it was working before, but now I'm going to hit space, which is going to trigger the next scene. Yeah, okay, those are still set. Let's add a canvas to this. This is one of the more annoying things, and I think our team's working on some helpers to do this so it's a little easier, but when you add a new canvas for UI, it preview photos. Something looks different to me. Oh well, not a big deal. It might be because I'm in a different, older version of the SDK. So when you add a canvas, it's always screen space. So it's always off in a wacky place in Giant. And to make it world space, you have to like do a lot of gyrations to kind of scale everything down to get it onto the game board. So we're going to add canvas. So there it is. The canvas is just absolutely enormous. I don't know if anyone in the chat room knows how to do world space so it doesn't become ginormous. That would be handy. So the canvas is what all of your UI is nested under and kind of lives on. And so now we got to get it rotated down. Is it this one? Nope. Is it this one? Nope. Actually, let me add a text box to it so I can make sure I don't rotate it inverted or flipped or something. So I'm adding a text mesh pro text box, and it says sample text. So out here somewhere it should say sample text. Is it rotated? I thought it should display. Is it really tiny? I used to use the old text. Am I missing Text Mesh Pro in here? What's going on? Abort, abort. I'm just going to use the old one for now, and we'll go back and fix that later. All right, so we got some text there. The problem with old school text is it's super blurry. Oh. Look what popped up on my other window. Import Text Mesh Pro. That's why I couldn't see anything. So maybe we can undo our abort and use the real text that's not all blurry. My understanding is Text Mesh Pro was something outside of Unity that they just acquired the company and just baked it in because everyone was using it. Yeah, you can see that text looks a lot better. So let's get this thing scaled down. I never know what the right thing to do is. Should I scale it? Or because I think the width and height is the resolution. If we go too low on that, I think it looks really pixelated. So let's make it square. So we need to go smaller yet. So I'm just messing with the yeah, I can't wait to get my hands on whatever the team is doing to make UI a little more convenient. Oof. 0.05. All right, now I stand a chance to get this rotated around. It's not that direction. So on the Tilt 5 game board gizmo, you can see there's a little logo. So this is kind of gives you a north heading. We kind of recommend all developers kind of try to orient everything around the logo as if you're facing the logo, and then you can add the board rotator scripts that handle people sitting at different sides of the game board. Not that. All right, it's probably this one. All right, there we go. We've got some text. Looks like I could shrink all this a little bit. Maybe more. So I'm making this a child of the game board. So wherever the game board goes, the UI is going to be stuck to it. And you can do all kinds of things, like you can have the text tipped towards you a little bit, which some people like, or you can give it a little bit of vertical stretch, something I kind of like to do sometimes. Okay. I think this would be a good time to see if ChatGPT can figure it out, because it can do a bunch of typing for us. All right, bring up the ChatGPT. I think what I'm going to do is feed it the source file, and usually it can figure out what's going on and make the edits. I'm sure a lot of your skin is crawling right now. Here is the source file we'll be modifying. Let it chew on that for a second. Moki says, yes, make the robot slave work for you. I agree. Based on your existing script, it seems like you're looking to switch scenes when the space bar is pressed, and you want to maintain the state of player join flags across scenes. Your current script is mostly on point. You're using don't destroy on load in awake to ensure the game object persists across the scene, so its variables won't reset. However, you could make some improvements for better organization and functionality. You may want to check if the scene actually exists before trying to switch to it. I like that. Since don't destroy on load keeps the game objects across the scene, you should also ensure that only one instance of the game object exists to prevent duplicates. I like that too. So, didn't ask for it, but let's take a look and see if we want to adopt those. I hate when it does this. It clipped out all of the stuff, so it didn't have to. Oh, good night, not another dev. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to go too much longer here. Maybe we'll get like the timer in there and we'll pick this up tomorrow because I'm really hungry. I haven't eaten anything today and it is a little bit late. I have to work on spreadsheets all day long and then CEO stuff, and then I get to have fun on off hours. Check if the scene index is valid before loading. Scene count in build settings. That looks like it would work. Here, I'm just going to be lazy. You can just tell it to show the entire script. That way I can cut and paste it. Oh, it's still going to be... damn you, ChatGPT. All right, we'll merge it in separately. Not another dev says, I feel the same. I was implementing some boring scoreboards for our game. And then Moki asks, what's my favorite fast food? Mexican food. And thanks for inspiring me. Maybe I'll pick up some Mexican food on the way home. There's a really good, not fast food Mexican place. It's fast food, but it's not like chain fast food. Okay, let's adopt some of this stuff. All right. I thought this was pretty cool. I think we can skip on the debug message. And then there was something up in Awake that it was suggesting that make sure that we don't have duplicates. Instance this. Make sure only one instance exists. Chimichanga and refried beans and salsa. That's what I'm going for tonight. And then I wonder why I'm a little heavier than I was. Oops, what did I misunderstand here? Oh, if instance null. And then there's a singleton up here. This looks all right to there, so. Boom, I didn't have to hardly think about it. All right, let's make sure. Let's make sure all this still works. And then I'm going to ask it to add once someone pulls a trigger, add a timer, and then access the canvas and the text mesh pro, and then we can see if we can get a countdown going, and then maybe that'll be it for tonight. Not as exciting as a night or two ago when we made a lot of progress, but it was really simple stuff to get that going. This is taking a little bit more thought in theory. Okay. Make sure I didn't bust anything. Get scene changer up. Boom, boom. And there's our text out there. That's good. It's upside down to you because the logo's here on my side of the board. And I'm going to hit space. And I'm going to hit space. Yeah. And let's, scene changer is still good. Thank you, ChatGPT. Okay, I think it's smart enough to remember all the other code. Sometimes you have to refresh it. Also, sometimes you have to get a new chat going too, because I was doing a little bit of research and I don't fully understand like how the iterative loops work on these LLMs, but sometimes they can kind of get off into the weeds and they're just feeding back junk. It's kind of like, okay, we're acting like a dumb programmer now because you said one thing that made me think dumb, and then we're just going to make really bad code. All right. So once add logic that detects when one of the players joins what was our variable called? Has joined. And then start a timer for 15 seconds. After 15 seconds has elapsed, switch scenes. Let's give it a little more. I don't know what would be the best behavior if someone joins. Is it another 15 seconds? That would be kind of annoying. Don't reset the timer if another player joins. Of course, we're going to have to fix this so that once we're out of scene 0, it no longer runs this logic. Johnny Speed says, programming is the foundation of good mechanics. Not exciting when you don't grok code, but respected. I don't know. 3 seconds? We should wait 3 seconds? Yeah, 15 seconds is long. Another player joins. Oh, is that backhanded? I don't know. I'm an architect. That's the fancy word for it. I used to work in the toy industry, and they had like the equivalent of the architects, and these were the people that really, they couldn't do a plastic mold, or they couldn't do this or that, but they could hot glue a bunch of stuff together, and they could have a bunch of strings hiding under a table, and they could prove like this thing we're building's fun, and then the experts in their domains would go off and make it really good. And I've kind of, outside of electronics, that's been kind of my career path a lot, and I enjoy it a lot because it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun trying to think of who is the end user, what are you trying to solve, and what's the bare minimum you can put in to solve it. All right, we're going to try, I don't know, 3 seconds seems a little too slow. So I'm going to override your choice. 5 seconds. I mean, sometimes, people are off jibber-jabbering. Don't reset the timer if another player joins. After 5 seconds, they'll switch scenes. Let's see if we can do not change state of, oh yeah, that's actually a bug I have in here. So if someone was in, say player 3 didn't join, and now we're in scene 1, we I'm not gonna have ChatGPT do this. I'm gonna bracket all of the kind of has player joined stuff to be qualified by scene index 0, and then any other scene you can't join. I mean, we could get fancy down the road, and we could have like an option, like an intermediate screen where people can join. Or yeah, everyone in chat is like 3 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, yeah, 5 Mississippi. I think that's good. All right, I'm gonna fix the scene thing myself. All right, what do you think? Do you think ChatGPT is gonna get it right? I think it is. Oh, it's always so happy. Certainly. You can achieve this by introducing a timer and a bool flag that indicates whether timer has been started. Below is the modified scene switcher script with the added functionality. It's remembering all the instance stuff. Now we've got the timer. So if any of the players join, all these ORs here, if timer not started, timer started true. Okay, I guess you could have done it a different way. If timer not 0, start counting down, but whatever. That's how we do it in hardware. If timer has started countdown, delta time stuff. If timer is greater than equal to 5F, it's counting up 5 seconds. Completely unnecessary. It doesn't need to reset this. I guess unless we're going back, I guess it is good that it's resetting it, because we may all die as we play and we'll go back to the home screen and then people can rejoin. So that's cool. I kind of think it will work. Let's copy from here to here, and then we will go back up and get all the variables and whatnot up in here. So bloop, I think we get rid of, we just put that in there. We need this little bit, and I think our errors will go away. Oh, I forgot to tell it about the canvas. Yeah, I want the countdown showing up somewhere. Let's just test it as is, and then we'll layer the cake, as someone said in the chat room. You got to bake the cake before you can ice it. Okay, let's go back to Unity. So in theory, we'll see how horrible 5 seconds is once I pull the trigger. All right, here we go. Pulled the trigger. Wasn't bad. That wasn't bad. You guys can wait 5 seconds to get into the game. All right, last thing tonight, let's see if we can get ChatGPT to get, text counting down. Because I don't want to figure out, there's all of this weird stuff, how you deal with a canvas, and I can never remember how to do it, and finding the text and stuff. I think it's you can do a text mesh pro text, and I don't remember the syntax, so we'll let ChatGPT do this, and then we'll clean it up a little bit later. I think the lobby is going to need a lot of bedazzlement to make it cool. I think it'd be really cool if we can find some other characters you can select, and maybe you can do some trade-offs of if you carry a big gun you move slower or something, or you can color your characters. The scene has a canvas with a text Is it called TMP? TMP text field. Please add logic to, oh, how polite am I? No, I'm not polite to ChatGPT. Let's undo that. Add logic to display remaining time for players to join. What is FF7? So Ben Cox says FF7 would be great for till 5. Coin Crazy said he found my channel by Sam Zeloff. I love what Sam's doing. It's pretty cool. I did some semiconductor stuff years and years ago, and he's taken it to, like, you know, another, like, dimension. It's pretty awesome. Yeah, okay. Let's read it here. To display the remaining time for players to join, you can add a reference to your TextMesh Pro GUI component and update its text property to reflect the remaining time. First, make sure to import the TextMesh Pro namespace by adding using TextMesh Pro. Yep, I would have forgotten that. On the top of your script. Let's get that in there. Boom. And then it is adding TextMesh Pro UGUI. Is that what I actually have? I have a little bit of reservation about this here. But it could be I just don't remember and I haven't done enough TextMesh Pro stuff. Okay, so this is going to show up in the editor, and we should be able to get our text field in there. Okay, what else does it want us to do? So once our timer's started, update the TextMesh Pro GUI to show remaining time. Int remaining time math to int, so that's nice. It's going to show it in seconds. And then the countdown text time remaining. It's kind of a nice touch that it concatenated the timing and the S for seconds. I think that's going to work. Coin Crazy says, I've been using ChatGPT for generic script templates as well. This is really cool. You know, the first time I tried to use ChatGPT, I was listening to everyone, including folks around our office, like, oh, it's going to be garbage and terrible. And the first thing that convinced me that I should try to do it is I saw someone do some Arduino code and like did some pretty advanced stuff. I'm like, well, if it can do that, then it might be able to help me with some simple stuff in Unity. And what I found is it's far better than Google searching, because, you know, a lot of times I would spend 30 minutes like looking at Stack Overflow, and there's all these people grandstanding going, well, technically you should do this, it's cleaner code and this and that, and again being more interested in being more of an architect. I just want to find like the answer, and if you keep things really simple, man, it does a good job, at least gets you within striking distance of what you need. It doesn't look like it changed anything else. I think that's all it's going to need. So let's cut and paste that in there. So once the timer started, it was right in here, is where it plunked it in. Did I mention you can buy your own till 5 system and have a lot of fun making games and non-games on sale. One of my mentors, he's like, "You're the CEO now. You're the cash extraction officer. So if you're not raising money from venture capitalists, you need to be convincing people that your stuff's great and they should get it." And I think it is great. I love programming on our system. I haven't had this much fun, doing any kind of programming thing since 8-bit computer days. All right, let's go to the editor. There's our Text Mesh Pro. Is it this I need to drag in there? Yay! Looks like it took it. All right. Here we go. Moment of truth. Let me get both wands ready because I'm going to try to join at the last minute and make sure that it works. Let's go. All right. Up. 3, 2, 1. Both of us made it in there. So both players. So we can see that scene switcher script held my values and I got player 2 in there at the last minute. Okay, let me stop this growling and stuff. So John asks, is there anything to try with Android Beta APK? I have to talk to the team and see if Till5 Experiences is there. Why don't we take a look right now on the website? It's possible it's not up there yet, and this would be a good reason to ask the team to get it up there. So we can go to downloads. So Till5 Experiences. First, let's go to games. Let me go back. We're going to play. We're going to go to the lab. It's in the labs right now. Actually, find that. See, look, on sale. Woo, $50 off, $100 off if you get a 3-player. The games. We just redid our website, so I don't know my way around it as well. Maybe not a good sign that I can't find my way around it. So we have our main game site. So if you go to the main game site, you can take a look at all of these games, or you can go to the lab. So we can go to the lab. And this is where there's a lot more experimental stuff. So in here is the Till5 demo pack. And inside the Till5 demo pack is multiplayer support for 1 and 2 player, and there's a couple 1 and 4 player. Yeah, unfortunately this is not on the website yet with Android, so I'll check tomorrow and see like why we don't have the Android version up there. But this one's good because there's a bunch of different things you can play. One of my favorites is Tumbly Tower. So this is fun multiplayer. So you're competing against each other to get the most green blocks and avoid the red blocks, which are worth negative points. There's one level of the marble maze, and so if you've been following my other live streams, I've been talking about Marble Maker, which is going to be a collaborative editing tool where you can make your own Marble Madness like mazes, but this is multiplayer up to 4, and the editor is really fun when you build levels together. This one's called The Drop, and your objective, single player and multiplayer, is to try to get your parachute guys to go through the rings and then land on the bullseyes. And you can run your players into each other and knock them off of their platform. This one's surprisingly fun for adults. I thought at first it would be kind of good for kids because you have to hunt around. It tells you like find the yellow car, and you have to find the yellow car and click on it. You're competing against each other. It's surprisingly challenging. Then Zyborg Intruders. This one you shoot lasers from your head and you have to shoot with your head. Yeah, so Hypo was talking about it's in public beta. Um, doesn't mean, I feel like if it's, even though it's in public beta, we should probably have some place for folks to find some of these things. Mark's Marvelous Marble Maze, which is kind of the classic, two knob marble things, uh, is available somehow. At least I played it. I don't know if it's publicly available, but yeah, there's stuff coming for Android. It's really coming along nicely. Oh, cool! Dragon's Fire has an Android version. Oh, someone talked about Power Glove, and that would be awesome. Uh, Actually, we have a camera dedicated for doing things like hand tracking, and one of our developers, the game called Kosi Do or Kosi Do, uses hand tracking. So we'll start to see more hand tracking. Anyway, um, yeah, it was kind of fun doing this stuff. I'm glad. I don't know why it took me so long to start doing live streams of my disastrous programming and game stuff. I have so many little mini games that I need to get going. Like the team now is bugging me to do Lathe Hero. So Lathe Hero, it shows you an outline of what you're supposed to cut into the wood spindle, and you use your wand and you kind of carve in, and you have 30 seconds to carve, and it's multiplayer, so whoever gets closest to the outline of what you're supposed to carve wins, and it's surprisingly fun. I built it maybe a year ago when we first barely had multiplayer going, and then never looked back. Now they want me to revive it. So yeah, here it is. Best value 3-player kit, $8.49. And then 2-player. I honestly, I think it's fine for people to get a 1-player system, but really the fun is when you have your friends over and you at least have a 2-player and you can play some stuff together. But anyway, I'll stop. And why don't we call it here? And unless you guys want to see one more weird thing out of my collection, my office has lots of weird stuff in it. I'm going to have to figure out how to go mobile one of these days. Give a second for the latency to see if you guys want to see one more weird retro thing. See you, Lynn. I wonder what the latency is between my talkie talk and you guys being able to respond. It feels pretty long. Okay, so more retro, please. All right. I have a cabinet right over here, which is my cabinet of commercial failures, and I'm going to pull one thing out. Maybe this is the way I can entice you guys to come back, is I'm going to pull out one weird thing a day. So I'm going to wander off. I'm going to choose something very weird out of the cabinet. What should it be? What should it be? I almost feel like this is too lame to show because I got your hopes up, but so the live latency is 23 seconds. I will keep that in mind. But yeah, I chose something kind of small. I can't just blow all of the really weird things right away. But let me ask the chat. Do you guys know what this is?
It's 8 p.m.
You can hear my Vox clock going in the background. What could this be? It has a PS2 connector on it and a long cable. Oh, I see some people. Oh, you guys are smart. You know what it is. I see people were spotting some of my stuff in the back. Ben Cox thought it was a mouse. A lot of people are saying QCat. John says he's got one on a shelf behind him. Uh, some people saw it on LGR video. Cat mouse. A rat simulator. I like that. It probably would have been a more viable product if it was a rat simulator, honestly. So this is a QCat. And I've been meaning, I should go look at the LGR video on this. I want to understand what this startup, I think this was a Bay Area startup that blew through hundreds of millions of dollars making this barcode scanner. As far as I know, it was like, we're going to give these things away nearly free, and then people are going to barcode scan all their groceries and stuff and then make money somehow, just kind of like the underwear gnome. And so, yeah, I think, if you're of a certain age, especially in this area, you had about 50 of these things around. And I thought they were so stupid, I just chucked them. And then a few years ago, I started putting this cabinet together. And I'm like, I need a QCat. It's the most ridiculous thing ever. A lot of people hacked these just to use them as barcode scanners. I Yeah, I'm going to stop speculating because I don't remember all the details on this. But maybe I'll go home and look it up and come back and tell you how many millions of dollars were blown on this thing. All right, well, I'm going to call it there. I just heard my Vox clock go off and say it's 8 o'clock. I want to get some food. I'm really hungry. Anyway, it was pretty cool. We got some forward progress on this game. All right, bye everyone. If I can find the stop button. Too many screens.